Alright, so we're back. Let's move along a little bit quickly here. We have a lot of stuff to cover. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly go and start placing some of these materials. And if you notice over here in this window, if we click right here, this object here is called the Architectural Assets Window Pane. So it's basically a piece of glass there. And if I go to wireframe view, you can see it. It's just a piece of glass that sits there to mimic the glass in a window. Okay. So with this object selected, we just go here to shaded mode. I'm just going to right click on it, go to assign new material, and we're just going to give it just a regular MI material will work. Material X will work as well. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really make a difference. And in this case at least. And I'm going to rename this to window. I guess window glass will work out just fine. Or window glass matte. That's what I like to use. Paste it there. Okay, so now the shading group and the material are renamed. Okay, well, let's go to the diffuse here. Well, the diffuse, we don't have to do anything to it since it's going to be just clear glass. We don't need to. We'll go to reflection, and these are the default parameters. We're going to leave the defaults alone because they actually look pretty good. And under advanced reflection, we're not going to make any changes. Now, refraction over here. The default index of refraction is 1.4. That's actually very important to remember there. And we're going to go down to not advanced refraction, but we'll go to BRDF here. And we'll tell it to use Fresnel reflection. When we do that, all these parameters here get grayed out. You can't do anything with them. And the reason is that the BRDF, or the degree of the reflection, is being controlled by the index of refraction, which is up here under the refraction parameters. So based on the index of refraction, that'll actually determine the Fresnel reflection parameter. Okay, so what you can actually do is go on Google or get a book or something, wherever you can find information from, and find out the index of refraction of different materials, like common glass, things like copper, things like bronze, water, diamonds, rubies, all kinds of stuff that has an index of refraction. And you can actually plug that index of refraction in here and use Fresnel reflections, and Mentor will actually go ahead and render those objects out to have the same type of reflection parameters and characteristics of the real-life counterparts. This is actually pretty cool. Okay. And of course, the other thing that we have to do in the refraction is take this transparency and turn it up. By default, set to 0. So what we'll have to do is increase it all the way to 1, so it's completely transparent. Okay. And let's go ahead and close that. And that should do it. This object should have the material applied to it. And it does. Window glass material. Okay. Let's go to the other window over here on the other side. Select it. Right click. Go to assign existing material because it's already been created, and give it the window glass matte. That's why it's so important to rename these materials, as you can see. Okay. Excellent. Alright. Now, if I go to wireframe mode, you can also see that there's another object back here behind the window. And it's slightly larger. It's sort of this rectangular object. And the other window has it as well. These are just background picture cards that go behind the window to give the illusion that there's an actual background in this scene. Okay? So what we can do is we can actually plug in images, pictures of landscapes, backgrounds, and backdrops, things like that, to give something interesting to these windows that we can look through. Okay? Right, so what we'll do is go ahead and apply that material to it. Now I'll right click on top of the wireframe of the object here, and what I'm going to do is apply a new material. So I'll go to assign new material, and we don't want to use any of these Mentor shaders. We don't really need to. What I'm going to do instead is go to the Maya shader list up here, and I'm going to apply a surface shader. And the reason I'm applying a surface shader, if you remember, the surface shader just has an out color, okay, and it looks 2D-ish. That's going to be a perfect shader to use in this circumstance. The reason being is that we can't use a Lambert or a Phong shader or anything, because if that background card has any type of reflection or specularity or any type of shading at all, it's going to look totally fake. It's going to look like someone took and put a poster behind the image, which wouldn't look good. So let's go ahead and plug in our texture here for the out color. So let's go to the checkerboard icon, plug in a file, and the file that we want to look for is going to be called, here it is. Landscapes 0021 1S. So we'll go with that one there. Open that one up. Okay, and you can see it there in the texture sample. It's just an image of a backdrop right there. And if I go over here and do an IPR, let's do an IPR of just that window. You'll see that's what it looks like. Now it doesn't look too convincing right now because it's a bit too dark. It actually looks like someone's holding a poster out there, which obviously doesn't look too good. So to fix that, what we're going to do is go down here to the color balance parameters. We'll go to color gain, and for the value we're going to have to overdrive it from 1 and put about 1.5. So now it looks nicer and brighter, almost like it's daytime outside, which obviously looks a lot better. Okay, so I'll hit accept on that, and I'm not going to make any more changes to that. Okay, let me close this. Let me go back to the hypershade. I'm going to go ahead and graph my network here. So let me select the backdrop here in the viewport. And I'll just click on this icon here to graph the materials in the hypershade. There we go. And it'll probably help to rename a lot of this stuff as well. So let me rename this shader over here. So let's call it window BG for background. And we'll call this one 1 because we're going to need 2 of these. Copy the name and paste it over here. There we go. Alright. Now there's really no other changes I need to make to the surface shader because that's really all there is to it. So let me close that. And there's our shader graph for this shader. It's not very complex at all. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just to do things a little bit quicker here. I'm going to select this shading group here. And with it selected, I'll go to edit. I'll go to duplicate shading network. Okay. And it's right over here. And I'll select the new duplicate, which is going to have the number 2 at the end. And I'll simply go to, I'll right click and I'll go to graph network. And here it is. And the file I'll have to change. So let's double click the file node there. And let's load up a different file. And the one we want to load up this time is called landscape 0021 4S. So we'll load that one up. It's just a different image of the same type of background environment there. Alright, and since we already made the changes to the previous shading network and this is a duplicate, the value is already set to 1.5. Okay, so let's close that and let's minimize that hypershade there. And you notice that it hasn't updated here. We'll do a new IPR. And we'll go ahead and do a render of this area. Okay, not too bad. Let me close that. Now, for this entire window piece, because you notice that the window frame is all one piece, I'm going to select, actually both window frames are the same here. So with those window frames selected, I'll just right click on top. I'm going to go to assign existing material, and I'm going to apply the walls material to it. I think the walls material is going to look just fine there. And let's do an IPR here. And we'll do a region right there with just that window frame. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Looks much more convincing. It looks like there's light coming in from outside. Excellent. Alright. Okay, but I think this video has been running for a good amount of time here. So let me end this video here. And in the next one, we'll just continue working on this scene. And we'll probably start moving to applying materials and shaders to the objects here in the center of the room. So like this counter here, for example, with the objects on top and so on and so forth. So I'll see you in the next video.